Welcome to the Talking Dog Show. I'm Anahata Graceland. I've had, my gosh, over 50 years in the dog industry, and I've created the Royal Frenchel Frenchie breed. And on this show, we're really always looking to enhance the relationship between you and your dog in a really wonderful way, science backed. You know, we've been with dogs, as I always say, for over 3,000 years. And in that time, we've evolved. Dogs have evolved. And it's shifted from doing work and labor or hunting and all of those things outdoors where dogs were kept out in the field, out in the yard, out in the garage, and now in our beds. So the reality is that dogs are no longer sort of an appendage on the outside of the family. They are now beloved members of our families. And there are reasons for that. There are scientific reasons for that. Like when you look at your dog, you get an output of 30% more oxytocin, which helps regulate your mood. And not only does that happen for you, it happens for your dog. So that's a really important thing to understand. Dogs and humans have evolved their DNA, their activities together in ways that have brought the strengths of each of us to our sides. So this morning, our show is always about stories and really good input for our dog families and the people who love their dogs. This morning, we have Jo Wilkens, who is a pet nutritionist with us. You know, there's only about 150 pet nutritionists in the country, and Jo is one of the certified pet nutritionists. And I really want you to listen up because this morning we are dealing with an issue that is really big in the dog industry. It's all about, you know, is there, I'm going to say a hard word here, fraudulent representation in the dog industry? There is no regulation or very little on the input you get to make decisions that have to do with your most beloved family member. And Jo is going to help you protect you and your dog from the antics that go on in the industry. So let me bring on Jo and welcome her to the show. She's been in the pet food nutrition area since 2016. And I met Jo at a dog food conference and loved her. What can I say? She was pretty amazing. Good morning, Jo.
Good morning, Rare. How are you?
I'm excellent, dear. I've got a little bit of a cold, so if I lose my voice on and off, no big deal. I'm feeling better, but my voice doesn't last too long, which is good for you because I tend to overtalk, but I won't today for sure. So it's all yours.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm very glad to be here and to get an opportunity to share some very valuable information that I think pet owners really need. This a baby. Which baby is that?
Yeah. This is little Angel. She's a Royal Frenchel micro.
Hi,
Such a good
Angel.
girl. Yeah.
Oh, precious girl. So, how would you like to get started? Do you have any specific questions? Do you just want me
Well,
to?
I think that, the topic of the show today is, and I know you're always so careful about not stepping on toes in the industry, but Jo, I'm not so careful. The reality is, I'm a breeder. I have suffered at the hands of the antics in the dog food industry until I took 2.25 years to study the dog food industry and go into a deep dive to find out how do they make the food and what do they say on bags and what can I count on? Because I was experiencing issues with my dogs that I knew were not in the lines. And it was only when I dug deeper, I realized like the insanity that is going on and the lack of truth, the manipulating of information on bags and, naming things a meat product when it's actually like roadkill and dogs that have been at the vet and put down, and you get medicine and everything else and all of this meat, and then they put it in a big vat and they mix it up and make it like a baby food, paste. I mean, Jo, listen, I know you don't usually talk about that. I get it. You're a beloved person and respected in the, certified nutritionist for dogs and cats and stuff. But Jo, give us the scoop. Tell us what we can count on when we look at a bag of dog food and look at the ingredients. What's really happening there?
Well, you can count on the industry doing whatever it can within some fairly unrestrictive guidelines to sell you the cheapest ingredients for the most amount of money that it can.
And I think that's the most important thing, Jo. And I won't keep interrupting, I promise.
No, you're
But
fine.
this is really important for people to understand. Their mission is to make as much money as they can. And their lack of regulation that's tight and responsible for your dog is just that, a lack. Okay. So you have the situation now where, oh gosh, guys, I had a brain disease when I was a kid. I have small seizures, may have just had one. I'm intelligent, but I do have this moment that can happen, which is why I vape. I vape a medication every day to help my brain function well without seizures. But anyway, well, I lost it, Jo. Go ahead. The big deal is doggone it. Well, I'll come back to it.
I lose my thoughts all the time. My train gets derailed and it's all over. I blame it on the undiagnosed ADD. So it's all good. Yeah. So the all right, let me start with saying that this is not a hard and fast rule across all dog foods. Obviously, there are good companies and there are bad companies, just like in any space at all, right? There's good people, there's bad people, there are one process doesn't necessarily equal bad processing. For example, while I am a big proponent of raw feeding when it fits with a person's lifestyle and budget, right? It's not cheap to feed raw, and it's definitely a specific lifestyle commitment, though there are ways these days that you can get closer to that without as many lifestyle sacrifices. We are a kibble society for the most part, and that involves rendering the finished product, and there isn't really a way to avoid that. But what you can do is look into companies and find companies that you trust to be using quality raw ingredients, to not over process the rendering, not over process during the rendering process, not to overuse that word, but and so that's kind of where I like to start by saying that what's in the bag is equally determined by the raw ingredients and the processing that go into it, which are things you cannot necessarily tell from the bag itself. But there's a lot of things on the bag itself that you can use your powers of discernment And once you know how the rules are structured and what they're telling the manufacturers, the requirements are, you can work within those parameters to find the best options for your pet that fit within your lifestyle needs and your budget. And
It reminds me, Jo, with what you're talking about, of sitting with an old-fashioned car salesman that tells you some long story about a car that is not in good shape, but the story isn't sharing that. And I think that, I use Patry dog food. I make no amends about it. I mean, I don't have to worry because that company is committed and made agreements to list every ingredient on the bag. So you don't have to wonder what organ is it, or is it the full meat from, one protein, etc. So you're suggesting that, like, that this car salesman approach, that there's like ways we have to actually arm ourselves to read the bag and discern what it is that they're actually giving our dog.
Yes, that is a big part of it. Most companies are not going to reveal their sourcing to you. They're not going to reveal their proprietary processes. But there are things they're required to put on the bag by regulation. And this is where some of our power comes in. You can also look at recall history for a company. I mean, a recall can happen to any company. I do like to preface that. But they seem to happen more for certain companies than for others, which can be an indicator of lax processes or perhaps compromised ingredients coming in the first place, and things like that. Just improper handling and procedures. So the first thing that I always like to say is, when you walk into the store, understand that everything on the bag has been designed to sell to you based on what you're seeing on the front of the bag. And I liken it to a movie poster. When you go to the movies or you're looking to see what kind of movie you want to go to, this is your image, right, that they choose for the movie poster. It's the same as the image on the bag, right? It's meant to sell you on a feeling. And the name of the actual food is really important, because there's actually 4 rules to naming a food. And I'm going to run through them really quick, if that's okay. So the first rule is it's affectionately called the 95% rule. And what that means is that the name, so like, say you have a food that's beef food for dogs or tuna cat food. That means that at least 95% of that recipe has to be either beef or in the beef food for dogs, or tuna in the tuna cat food. There's no qualifiers there. It is just the name of the ingredient and then identifying that this is cat food or dog food. It's really rare that you're going to find an actual food for your pet that falls into the 95% rule. But you can find a lot of really great healthy treats and toppers that fall into this. It's difficult to get something, if not impossible, to get something that is complete and balanced, like has everything in it that your pet needs to survive in just a couple ingredients, right? So this is why you're really more looking for this on food, on toppers and things like that. These items should also say on the back of them that it is for supplemental feeding only. And you will see this on supplements as well. And that just means that it is not everything that your pet needs to survive, right? It means that you're going to have to add some things in order to even meet their bare minimum needs. So that's the 95% rule. The second rule is the dinner rule, and this is going to be examples like chicken dinner, beef and rice entree, real salmon and potato recipe. So this is when they have some kind of a qualifier like dinner, recipe, something like that on there. And that means that those named ingredients in that title have to make up at least 25% of the food recipe. So there's a lot of room between 25% and 95%. So you can see that probably the vast majority of pet foods that you're certainly going to find in like the box stores like Petco, PetSmart, that kind of thing, are going to fall into this dinner rule category. They're going to fall somewhere between 25 and 95% of that recipe being whatever is named in that title, in that the name of the food. And just to qualify it, so one of the examples I gave was salmon and potato. So with that means that at least 25% of the recipe needs to be salmon and potato together. But there has to be more salmon than there is potato because the salmon is listed first. So in our pet foods, the FDA and AFCO require that the ingredients are listed in the order of the predominance in the recipe, which means how much of that is in the recipe. And
And
we'll get
Jo,
into that more when we get to the ingredient list on the back. But
doesn't it also mean like there's a whole variety of what is salmon, right? There's really good fresh salmon meat, and then there's like guts and bones and jaws and
yeah,
stuff like that
we'll get
crushed
into
up
that a little
enough.
bit more with the ingredients on the back, but
Okay.
in the title, there's no requirements for any qualifiers like that to identify.
Okay.
So that's where you have to kind of dig into the ingredient list on the back in order to see, okay, what kind of salmon are we talking about in this recipe?
Paper towel. Whoops. Jo froze. So hold on, folks. We'll work at getting her back. I just want to say that, when I heard Jo talk the first time, this distinction between the quality of food that goes into that naming, right, is hugely disparate. Like, you can have rarely companies that put the whole food in there that's like fresh and the meat of it, right? Versus, like I was saying before, the jaws and things like that.
So that's the dinner rule.
Guts,
And
nails, cartilage,
I'm going to wait
ears.
for
I
my
mean, all of that sort of thing. So
reconnect.
Jo's going to help us. She's back. Okay, Jo, go ahead.
I apologize. Hopefully my computer's
That's
decided
okay. No big
to
deal.
caught up.
Happens all the time.
So that's basically the dinner rule. There's a lot of room there for differences in recipes. And this is really where, to me, I get into more. I need to dig into the company a little bit and decide how much I trust them to be doing what's right for my pet. The third rule is called the with rule. And this is going to be any food where it has the word with in the title. And so it could be dog food with chicken. It could be, I think I have an example on a slide, Arturo, if you want to pull that up. And
sure, he'll be doing that.
Go back a couple slides. There we go. The with rule. You just went. So, yeah. So, like this Purina 1 formula is a large breed adult formula. And you can see on the right, it's large breed with real chicken. So, that means that the chicken in that formula only needs to make up 3% of the recipe.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Jesus, Jo.
I mean, again, you're looking at a range. It's somewhere between 3 and 25%, but it can be as minimal as 3%, and it will and to meet the requirements for that naming rule.
You see
So
what I mean, folks, about, the lack of really tight industry regulation that supports and protects your dog. And this is why we need people like Jo. Like, I really hope you go to her, and her links are below. Learn about your nutrition for your dog because, on average, you can save your dog 3 to 5 years of life, depending on its size, its genetics, etc. But really, the right food makes a massive difference. Really,
it really, really
folks.
does. The I just lost what I was going to say. So we will move on to the flavor rule. So the flavor rule is this is going to be, we do have another slide that can show an example of the flavor rule. Should be the next slide. And so this is an example of your flavor rule: roasted chicken, rice, and vegetable flavor. That is an indicator that that recipe may actually not have any chicken, any rice, or any vegetable in it. It just needs to taste like it does. It has to have something in it that could be an artificial flavoring. It could be a similar ingredient that kind of tastes like that, where it is detectable as being that flavor, but it doesn't have to actually be that ingredient. And you're looking at less than 3% for sure.
Jeez. Jo, I mean, how do you do what you do without being a little more edgy about it? I guess you've had more practice than me.
Well,
of course, in my 70s at this point, and having worked with dogs as my best friends for all these years, I got to tell you, I take a pretty strong stand about this stuff.
So I feel that people do the best that they can with the knowledge that they have at any particular given time. I don't like to judge the choices that people make. I ended up in this nutrition space, and this is a story that I only just recently started actually telling, so I'm probably going to get choked up when I tell it because the emotions are still pretty raw. It was difficult for me to even face it. I had a dog that I adopted, and very shortly after I adopted him, he was having some GI issues that caused him to have diarrhea all the time. And he would have accidents in his crate, even when he hadn't been in there very long. And it'd get all over him, all over the crate. There was all this cleaning involved. I was dealing with a very recent fibromyalgia diagnosis and a herniated disc. And I was on some disability income at the time. And so I had a lot of limitations in my life. And I didn't know how to take care of him and give him what he needed. And, I took him to the vet over and over and over again. I spent hundreds of dollars at the vet trying to find out what was wrong. All his tests came back normal. And at a very low point, I surrendered him back to the shelter. And this is a source of shame and embarrassment in my life that I gave up on him. I didn't know what else to do. I was at my wits and my financial end at that point in time, and I didn't know how to help him. And I don't want any pet parent to have to go through that. It's heartbreaking. I don't want someone to be separated from their pet because of something that clearly wasn't a medical issue, and they may very well have been able to take care of on their own nutritionally had they been working with someone or done some of their own research, which obviously I didn't do either. I mean, this was a little before the internet was what it is now. And it wasn't until many years later that I actually was introduced to pottery as well, which is how I started to become exposed to the difference that nutrition can really make for our
Oh
pets.
my God.
And
Yeah,
that is
it's huge.
actually my work with pottery is actually what got me to go and get certified. I was like, I want to learn more. I want to be able to help more pet parents in and or out of pottery. And I don't want anyone to have to make those sacrifices if they don't, if it's not their choice, right? If it's
You
just
know,
because of a
Jo,
nutritional thing.
I tell you, it's clear how you carry that. And it's such a beautiful legacy for his life that you're out here doing what you're doing. But I don't think most people know that they're veterinarians. Number one, they get maybe 3 hours of nutritional training during all their education, even though nutrition ought to be really the first intervention done over a period of 90 days minimum, typically, in my view now. Okay. I got a lot of years behind me, folks. And they are just unaware. You know, we come from the age, or I do anyway, where we thought the doctor was, sacrosanct, that what they said was everything. And unfortunately, doing the best that they do, and they're in debt when they come out. They have to find a job. They have all of this weight on them, and they see horrendous things every day. And they make interventions that save lives. But darn, I'll tell you, they don't get it when it comes to nutrition. They'll send out and refer for an orthopedic situation, for a neurological situation, but it takes you know twisting an arm and a leg in order to get a nutritional consult and referral. And Jo, this is so critical. I mean, in my kennel, I had 7 dogs on medication for allergies when I started pottery. One ended up getting cancer from one of the meds because, for quality of life, she had been on it for like 5 years. And I feel awful about it. She's still alive, but she's probably not here much longer. Um, but you've got this situation where the drugs they give you cause so much damage over time that a nutritional intervention can completely shift. Now, today, those same 7 dogs in my kennel, not one of them is on any allergy medicine. They aren't even on the allergy supplement from pottery. I'm telling you, like, for real, including Lolly, who had this, horrendous life of allergies previously. And obviously, what she did have was a massive allergic reaction to the fillers in the food. And now she has a good life. She, however, is dying of cancer. because no one knew better, including me. And I made my food. 3/4 of my food I made by hand, and then we added kibble. And just that amount, you know, did damage. And
Yeah,
I'm sure you hear these stories all the time, Jo, but people don't know that veterinarians struggle so much with a lack of knowledge in the real healthful benefits of nutritional care.
that's correct. Absolutely. Unless you're lucky enough to have a veterinarian who's extremely open-minded, or who has made nutrition a hobby, or you go to a holistic veterinarian, but they're hard to find, right? Then you're really left to find someone like me, or which we're not everywhere either.
No, only
There's more of
150
me, so I am not
people in the
board
country,
certified.
Jo.
Well, I do want to qualify that I am not board certified, and those are the ones that there's maybe 300 max in the whole country. um I am certificate certified, not board certified. So
Okay.
there's different standards there, and different levels. But so you either need to do something, find somebody like me, or better, or you need to do a lot of your own research. A lot of
But,
people just don't have time.
Jo, one of the issues is, look it, we've been talking for a little while already. And one of the things that goes on with me is I've got a busy life. Okay. I have projects, I have a show, I've got all these things, 6 godchildren. I mean, the thought of having to go learn all this stuff in order to protect my dog and me, and I say me included, because let me tell you something. The amount of thousands, you said hundreds for you, and I get that because back then it was that. But for me, it has literally been tens of thousands of dollars as a breeder that I have had to lay out because of this insanity.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
and
this is
yeah,
serious stuff.
and I
And
always try
I
and
don't have
remind.
the time to learn all that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. And that's what people like me are here for. To help you either just understand what's going on with your specific pet, right? What's going on in the bag you're currently feeding your specific pet, etc. What things can we do nutritionally to boost their immune system, to protect their liver? Every single medication you give your pet shortens the life of their liver. It's the same
Yeah.
for us. By the way, these naming rules and things that I'm talking about, they all apply to human food as well.
Oh my God.
So this can really change the way you approach the grocery store, right? When you're looking at what food you buy, look for that with rule. It sounds good with chicken. Yeah, I like chicken. It doesn't have to have any chicken in there. Well, that's the flavor rule, but the with rule, it's 3%. So yeah, it's really crazy. um so I don't want to lose the time to talk about the actual ingredient list. So I'm going to skip some of the other aspects of the bag. I really want to make sure that we have time to talk about the ingredient list, because there are some very specific recommendations that I have for what you're looking at on the back of your bag when you're looking at that ingredient list.
Great.
Um, a lot of pet parents know these days, especially ones that have been around for a while, to look for a meat as the first ingredient. If you don't know that, that is something that you want to try and get from your food. But there are some tricks that companies will do to get meat as the first ingredient, even if it isn't the ingredient with the most quantity in the recipe. As I mentioned before, these ingredients are required to be listed in the order that they the predominance in the recipe. So if chicken is listed first, over and above all the other ingredients, then there needs to be more chicken by pre-cooked weight than there is any of the other ingredients in the recipe. And now it is important also to note that if it's just chicken and it's not chicken meal, that includes the water weight
Take that
that
out.
a lot of that cooks out, which is where meat meals come in to be really important. So meat meals, they've taken that meat, that raw meat, and they've ground it down and they've dried it out. They've taken all the water weight out. So if you have a meat meal as one of the first 5 ingredients, that is a good thing because that's your concentrated protein. It is a higher quantity in the recipe based on weight again, but it's not carrying that extra water weight. So that's a good amount of that product in that recipe. But it's really important that whether you're talking about a meat or a meat meal, that it is named, that it doesn't just say meat meal or fish meal or poultry meal. You want to know what type of animal that meat came from. Is it chicken meal? Is it beef meal? Is it turkey meat? Whatever that is, you want to know. Is it salmon or is it salmon meal? You don't want these generic terms. The more generic a description in that specific ingredient list gets, the more trouble that ingredient potentially is for your pet from a quality standpoint. The other thing you want to look at is what types of just about every kibble recipe. I'm talking primarily about kibble here.
Jo, when you say trouble, what does that mean?
So, I mean, as you have mentioned, very often they can include undesirable meat. And if a meat isn't delineated as being specifically from salmon, for example, it just says fish meal. It is much more likely that you are getting a conglomeration from a fish market of just trimmings from all kinds of random fish that have at some point been pushed into a bin and just sort of all shoved over. It's normally back in the day.
So
This is
Jo, I want to
part.
understand. So you're
Yeah.
saying like the fins and the jaws or like eyeballs or whatever, that all of that from all kinds of fish?
Yes. If it only says
Not
fish
just the
meal,
salmon that you think you're
correct.
buying.
Correct. Now, if it
Jesus.
says salmon, it should be just salmon. But if it says fish meal, then it's not. Even if it's a salmon recipe on the front, but the back doesn't say salmon, it says fish meal, then you've got some issues there. It still maybe it still should. It may have salmon meat because it has that water weight, and then fish meal, for example, and that fish meal may be coming from all kinds of the parts that were normally thrown away back in the day. Some of this depends on if you're talking about a meat or byproducts, right? And a meat, a meal, or byproducts. There are some differences there. Byproducts, lots of people have very negative things to say about byproducts. They can be terrible. Again, you want them to be named, but the thing is that byproducts, per the standards of the governing bodies, include the amazing organ meats that are really important for your pet. Things like the liver and the kidney and the heart. I mean, in Chinese medicine, they will recommend if you have a heart problem, eat the hearts of animals. If you have a liver problem, eat the livers of animals. It's I believe it's like heals like. That those organs in other animals have everything, all the ingredients needed to that if you eat another animal's liver, it's going to have the a lot of the organisms and vitamins and things like that your liver needs, right? So you're sort of concentrating that need. So byproducts aren't
But you
necessarily a
don't
bad
know
thing.
that that's the stuff that's in that food. That's the
Well,
problem,
that's the
Joe.
thing though, with which is why in pet foods, I generally recommend staying away from byproducts unless they itemize. On some pet foods, you will see it will say like um chicken byproducts, for example. And then in parentheses, it will say liver, kidney, whatever. It will identify what those byproducts actually are. And so I just like to qualify for people byproducts aren't necessarily bad, but if you're not seeing that itemization, I would steer clear of it entirely because it can have all kinds of horrible things. We've talked about both byproducts and meals can have roadkill, other, you know,
Yeah,
euthanized animals, which includes that euthanasia drug, which they have found in tests in pet foods, remnants of the euthanasia drug. So it can have all kinds of really horrid things, hooves, and not that, I mean, again, we sometimes give our dogs hooves to chew on, but that doesn't mean we want them to be eating it as a primary part of their diet, right? It's okay a
right.
little on the side as a treat. Um so then the other thing I really like to point out, and Arturo, if you would like to pull up the ingredient list slide for um this one right here. So there's some other things. There are some preservatives you want to try to avoid. These aren't BHA and BHT would be two of the really big ones that are just poison for our pets. Well, for anyone. But
Mhm.
one of the things I like to really point out, you can see this particular food. It starts with whole grain corn. Obviously, that is not particularly desirable. It has meat and bone meal. Again, this is not identified. It is just meat and bone meal. You don't even know what kind of animal. Um, Bone meal is important. That's not a problem. Your pet needs it for their body, but you want to know what animal it's coming from.
Yeah.
So look at that third ingredient. We've got corn gluten meal. This is something that they've started doing in recent years where they take what should be corn, just a corn ingredient, and they've split it up into whole grain corn and corn gluten meal. Now, on a lot of recipes, you will see this split happen so that, and when they do it, it would push that meat and bone meal to be the first ingredient by predominance because they've broken that
Right.
whole grain corn down and the corn gluten meal down to separate ingredients so that there's less of those by predominance in the recipe. Um, but if you put them together, they would be in front, right? And then on this particular recipe, you've also got soy, which is another ingredient you want to avoid. So corn, wheat, and soy, these are three ingredients you typically want to avoid in your pet foods. They are essentially undigestible for your pet. They provide no nutritional value. Your pet does not make the enzymes to break these down and turn them into anything beneficial for them. It is there to bulk up the numbers of the recipe. They also tend to be common allergens, things that will cause your pet to have that dry skin, the overshedding, the itching, the hot spots. If your pet's experiencing allergies year round, we definitely want to take a look at the food. If it just started out of nowhere, then we could be looking at seasonal, or we could be looking at something more like a change in the recipe because when of their food, because when these companies make changes to the recipe, they are under no obligation to make any kind of announcement on the bag or in the press or anything that they've made changes. And generally, when you start seeing prices go up or you're hearing about raw ingredient prices going up, if the cost of your pet food has not gone up or the bag size gone down and the price stayed the same, make sure you're taking a good look at the ingredient list on that food, and because chances are they've made some changes, and if the actual ingredient list hasn't changed, they may have changed the quality of the raw ingredients that they're putting into it. So
And
again, this is where it comes
Joe,
to working with a company that you
also, what you're talking about means that the microorganisms that are living in the gut with all of that crap that they're being fed and manipulated to buy and put in their dog, that stuff is a yeast bed. I mean, it generates
yeah.
the worst potentials for your dog.
Yep, and it just compounds over time, right? So
Yeah.
when just like with humans, when we're young, we're more resilient. We have more of everything in our bodies, right? And our systems are new and fresh and hopefully working the way they are supposed to. And then as we age and we continue to do more and more bad things to our body, the issues compound on themselves as our resources within our body get lower, both from abuse, neglect, and from aging, right? The natural process of aging as things change. The exact same thing happens in our pets. And so the more we care for their systems from the earlier on, the better. They're better off they're going to be. The longer they're going to live with us. I mean, back in the day, our pets used to live. It was not unusual. It wasn't rare to have large dogs live to 15 to 20 years old.
Right.
And these days, people feel lucky if their large dog lives to 10, right?
Yep.
Oh, they had a good long life. And it just breaks my heart and my soul what the food industry has done to our pets, and it's doing a lot of the same things to us as humans too. So it's just very sad.
Yeah, puppies. Well, Joe, we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. I've kind of gone past the time that I would normally show some pups, but the things you're sharing are so important. The one thing that concerns me a lot is, you know, what happens, like I'm thinking about the person out there who's working full time, has kids, does all this stuff every day, busier than heck. They don't want to have to learn or go to school to know what dog food to choose. And so I want to tell you, my sweet viewer with your beautiful dog, go below. You can contact me anytime. I'm happy to help you customize a dog food plan. I am happy that you contact Joe and get the support you need. You don't have to get exhausted doing this. We don't want you to feel guilt and horror like Joe did in her story, or like I have in mine with Mr. White, which I didn't tell that story today. But, you know, I mean, they are trapped. Dogs are trapped in our world, and we owe them the respect and the care they deserve. And I want to urge you to take it the easy road. Contact us. We'll get you set up with a customized food plan. And yes, for me, maybe I know Joe believes in it too. But for me, I am dedicated to Pottery dog food because I have never seen such results in my life. And even my vet is on it now. I mean, it's so vital, and the changes have been so massive in my company. And the 10-in-1 vitamin, that sucker is unreal. It covers 83, I think it is 83% of all the reasons why dogs go to the vet. And it has a maintenance level of those wonderful micronutrients and vitamins and probiotics in it. It's and the plaque control is space age. I mean, I've used it on my dog for 3 months now, and he had black. He's an old guy, okay? And I don't brush teeth. I can't. I'm a breeder. But he had black on his teeth, horrible breath. I mean, none of my friends would pick him up because the poor guy's breath was so bad. And we started him on the plaque control. Now you can see his tooth. It's no longer black. His breath is awesome. People are picking him up left and right. He is so happy. Contact me.
Good. Yeah.
Contact Joe.
Good
Feel
nutrition can
comfortable.
change the relationship you have with your pet entirely. You know, if you're not mad because you're vacuuming all the time because they won't stop shedding, if you won't cuddle and snuggle with them because they have terrible breath, right? And they can't give you the kisses that they want to give you because you don't even want that. Like, you know, sometimes some dogs have that, or cats will have the saliva that even if their breath isn't bad, the saliva leaves a smell that's unpleasant. These are all things that can be fixed nutritionally. So yeah.
And folks, we're not joking you. I mean, I'm not here to sell dog food. I'm here, if you want a dog, I have Royal Frenchel Frenchies, which I created. And yes, I can help you set up with the dog food. I do sell dog food, but I get a very minimal amount of my income from that. It's only because it's the only way that pottery can be sold is from people who actually use it. Do you know that over 93 or 94% of the people that use pottery never leave it? They've never had one recall, and they test every single batch of food for salmonella, for all of these things. Listen, a company dedicated like that, I bought $900 worth of dog food, right? And it came, and my dogs, I was trying a new version of it, you know, one of the different kinds. And my dogs did not do well on it. Pottery not only got me new dog food, but they did it in like record time because I was out, and they told me to donate the food, and like they took care of it, and I didn't have to pay more. They are so dedicated to long-term relationship and the health of your dog. I mean, the guy who runs the company, who's the founder, Roger Morgan, he was in the dog food industry. He got fed up with it because of the lies and the stuff. And I don't want to speak for him. Anything I say is mine, not his. But I want to tell you that, you know, the guy is dedicated. I got my own ticket, flew to Dallas, Texas, spent 3.5 days there. And I'm telling you, I was in tears by the end of it because I was so grateful to find a company that actually does what they say they're going to do. And everything on their label, you don't have to read like with binoculars. You can just listen. All you have to do is read the word, and that's what it is. And they have that in their mission. They're dedicated completely across the board. And they've been in business over 10 years, and you have a 90-day money back guarantee. Now, I'm not here, like I said, to sell the dog food, but I am telling you why I am so impressed with it. The link is down below. Please feel free to contact me anytime, Joe, because it's puppy time. Whoops, I just lost my earpiece. Anyway, you can hear me and I can still hear you, but just not as strongly. I don't know what happened to it. Anyway, Joe, I love you. We will have you back again. I will assess what you did, or you will, and you'll say, oh my God, she talked too much. I need to talk about this or that. And we'll get you back and we'll have you share again, because I want people to learn, you know, how to love their dogs in an effective way when it comes to food and nutrition. It just means so much to them. It truly does. You have
Thanks
any
so much for
closing
having me.
statement you want to make, Joe?
Just thank you for having me. You know, educating people is part of my love language, I think. So I do like to share what I know, and I'm happy to do that. I definitely do sell dog food. That is part of what I do. Pottery allows me to do my consultations for free. So at this point in time, I don't charge for my consultations because I'm able to make my income from the new clients that decide to try pottery and end up staying there. And that makes me happy. So
Makes me happy every time I get someone on the dog food. Every time I sell a dog and I know they're starting out with the
yeah.
right thing. I
Oh yeah,
lost
and
my damn
that those first
earphones.
2 years when their brain is developing
Here, we
still,
got to
they
find
are
it.
critical.
All right, love. Listen, thank you so much. We'll have you back. Mwah. It was a pleasure seeing you. And thanks for all the pre-work up front, getting things ready. I know it takes some time. We're new at this.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to have been here. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, folks. So obviously, we're learning little bits at a time every time we come together. I hope you're enjoying the set. This is kind of fun. We put together my little dog room here, and I decided to share it with you online. I am losing my voice, so I'm going to show you puppies really quick. Come on in. No, she's not for sale, honey. She's oh yeah, she is. This little gal. So this is little super micro cricket, and she is a doll. She actually is almost housebroken. She lives with me in my bed at night. I actually give her a lot of attention. I take 8 dogs and always work with 8 dogs at a time. Mm. So this is little cricket. I'm going to hold her up a little closer so you get to see her. Oh my God. And listen, remember, when they get older, it takes 3 years for a Royal Frenchel to get beefy. So they start out a little bit thinner like this, but they end up chunky. Okay, let's see here. Here's a little boy. This is my service dog I'm training, right? In another 2 years, 3 years, this boy is going to be super chunky. So I just want you to know, and we have all sizes. We have super micro, small. We don't typically have large, though I do have one litter coming in about 6 weeks that'll be a regular litter. And this little one is Charlie Ray. Yeah, good boy, Charlie. Oh, he's such a good boy. He's a gorgeous boy. Just sweet as can be. Both he and his sister are just so lovely. Mm, yes. There we go. Hi, Charlotte. This is Charlie's sister, Charlotte. Whoops. We've got a battery going low. I just heard in my ear. All right. Isn't she lovely? I'll tell you, I'm going to hold her up. But a Royal Frenchel, they're the first time ever a dog's been in the top 2 dogs of the country that's a bulldog like that. Farmers Insurance chose it after checking 40,000 vet policies for longevity and health. And I just want to remind you, my every week sharing of my special dog food thermos. Sounds funny, dog food and thermos, but you have two bowls and you can drink. And don't forget, do the ritual in your car. It's so fun. Dogs love it when you have a moment together and say, hey, it's treat time. And you both get some water and you both get some treats. I don't put dog treats in there. The truth is, I put stuff in that I can have with them because I like the bonding ritual together. So, yeah, enjoy. This is on Amazon. The link is down below. Losing my voice here. Holy mackerel. Tough, tough time to keep it going. All right. I think we have to wrap up, folks. please feel free to contact me anytime. I would love to be of help to you and your dog family. And interspecies culture is where it's at. You know, they give our hearts that little extra unconditional love we so badly need in today's world. And we get an opportunity to give it without threat, right? Which right now in the world out there on socials and everywhere, it's a tough life with other humans. I mean, they're tough. Okay. Anyway, love to you, love to your dog. See you next week. The Talking Dog.